I'm joined now by Caitlin Huey-Burns from RealClearPolitics to discuss so very much, including, Caitlin, your choice of ingress to the queue today. It took you right past Newt Gingrich, who will not be speaking here tonight as Donald Trump's vice presidential running mate. But did have some words. I'll read your tweet. Told you it was just goofy and sad that the sitting governor of this state, Republican John Kasich, has really yet to make an appearance or much of an impact here at the convention.
I'm so fascinated by this feud going on between the Trump campaign and the Kasich campaign. Kasich is the sitting governor of Ohio, twice elected in this state with a broad diversity of a coalition, and he has not endorsed Donald Trump, and the campaign is really not, upset about that. Not having Kasich on board, endorsements, for whatever they're worth these days, John Kasich really matters in Ohio because of his network. He basically is in charge of the whole Republican Party here and the outfit, and Donald Trump's campaign isn't as well organized here. So Newt Gingrich is a close ally of John Kasich. He supported John Kasich. He voted for him in Virginia. They're close friends dating back to their days in Congress. And you see Newt here kind of adopting the language of the Trump campaign, which is get on board or we're moving on without you. He said it was pathetic and sad and goofy that John Kasich wasn't setting foot in here over the course of this week. Interestingly, John Kasich's running kind of his own counter-programming. He's been campaigning all over the city of Cleveland. You've probably run into him if you haven't already. And it's very much a deliberate attempt on his part to shape his own narrative.
And it's interesting, a Trump national spokesperson earlier today in referring to the fact that Ted Cruz will be speaking tonight, the fact that Marco Rubio will appear via video, Scott Walker, the Wisconsin governor, vanquished opponents of Donald Trump, albeit some for whom being messengers for this candidate, it seems a hard thing to grasp, but it seems also to be a reflection of the fact that Donald Trump, just as a candidate, if not the campaign proper, just cannot let something go, even at a time when it seems that efforts would be better focused elsewhere.
Absolutely, and at a really critical time. I mean, the election is, there's still a few months to go, but it's close. Organizing is really the most important part of this campaign, and especially this week in Ohio. The Clinton campaign is well organized here, is focusing on this state. Republicans traditionally can't win the White House without Ohio, and John Kasich was thought to be one of, a leader in the Republican Party in that regard, and this battle between the two is really should be concerning to those trying to win this state.
I also want to ask you about a New York Times report today that this past May, Donald Trump Jr., from whom we heard last night, actually reached out to an advisor of John Kasich and said he, and this is the Times words, said he wanted to make Kasich an offer nonetheless, and I quote, "Did he have any interest in being the most powerful vice president in history?" When the Kasich advisor then asked what would that mean, it meant he would be in charge of domestic and foreign policy. The advisor then asked, well, then what would Donald Trump be in charge of? And he said he got a casual reply, making America great again. What can you tell us?
Well, I talked to some Kasich advisors today at an Ohio delegation breakfast, and they said that they were in contact with the campaign after Kasich left the race, but that the two had very different visions of the Republican Party and of the future of what the party wanted to be and about the race. And one Kasich advisor said that Kasich proposed to Donald Trump to kind of read his speech that he gave called Two Paths, where he talks about his own vision. Kasich ran a very optimistic campaign, very counter to Donald Trump, although he didn't attack Donald Trump directly during the course of the campaign. But the two camps haven't really spoken. I mean, Paul Manafort came out with strong words earlier this week. They haven't spoken since then. And Kasich advisors said that Kasich was not interested in the job at all.
If you then consider just the word that word optimism, it can almost. It makes more sense, perhaps, that John Kasich would have nothing to do with this convention, considering what we've seen from the last two nights. It has been, there are words that used to describe it, grim and reductionist. Certainly Hillary Clinton, when she is the most name-checked politician at the Republican National Convention. I think it suggests perhaps to this point what we've seen. So then we have Donald Trump's pick for VP. He will be keynoting tonight along with his son Eric. But what to expect then from a man for whom, when the pick was made, Donald Trump at least paid lip service to the idea of bringing him on the ticket as a way to unify what has appeared to be a fractured party.
Right, indeed. And that's why you've heard all of this anti-Clinton rhetoric, because that's the kind of thing, one of the few things at this point that unites the Republican Party. Pence is certainly more of a low-key figure, although he does have those relationships in Congress. I would expect him to talk about his experience in Congress, but mostly his experience as governor, perhaps giving a more optimistic message, as we've seen from some vice presidential candidates in the past. But also, I'm sure we'll hear some attacks against Clinton. Other people to watch tonight, interestingly, will be Ted Cruz, who, of course, a big former rival of Donald Trump's,
and who has yet to endorse,
and is not planning to endorse, as we're hearing.
Really?
So, which is really interesting to watch. Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio will be giving a video address. You have these, rising party stars, so to speak, positioning themselves really for their own political careers. If we don't hear Donald Trump's name from Ted Cruz's mouth today, that will be really interesting.
Well, if he does not then endorse, again, these 4 days are about optics as much as anything else, and reaching out to undecided voters to be sure. If he is not going to endorse, he's surprised that the campaign is going to ask him to still speak. I mean, what would we then expect to hear from him?
Right. Well, we're expecting to hear from various reports and such that he's going to talk a lot about, being the party of Reagan. We heard that a lot from Ted Cruz over the course of the campaign, a lot from these other candidates. We heard from Paul Ryan last night. They're trying to kind of talk their way around the idea that Donald Trump is the nominee and talk about, what they want for the party. Just not hearing Donald Trump's name that often from some of these candidates, or some of these former candidates, I should say, is really telling about the state of the race.
Quickly, if not optimism, might we at some point hear more specific policy positions tonight?
I'm not expecting it. It really is an effort to rally the troops and to promote, for some of these people, to promote their own political futures. It's a very anti-Clinton atmosphere, an anti-Clinton message. You talk to a lot of the delegates on the floor asking about their support for Trump. Sure, some of them are excited, but mostly excited to run against Clinton.
Day 3 is upon us. Caitlin Huey-Burns, we appreciate your fitness in today.
Thank you so much.